And we head on to the second half of the day, starting up with Berjaya Dragons versus Alpha Esports. Berjaya trying to catch up to Hong Kong Attitude now that they have 5 wins and keep within the pile, while Alpha Esports trying to stay relevant in search of that playoff slot. But before we go deeper into the game, we have to first take a big thank to our sponsors in CTBC Bank, China Airlines, and Chunghwa Telecom, and of course our newest addition in Caliber. If you've been seeing the lower thirds in our broadcast today, you might have noticed that there actually is a discount QR code for you to go on their products. Check that out. I'm not sure if it applies to all regions. Unfortunately, I don't really know about that, but it doesn't hurt. Scan it, see what happens, and on we go into our game right here. You know, this one is incredibly close, and I actually think one of Alpha Esports' best chances to get a win.
Well, if Hong Kong Attitude can stop the skid at 6 losses, surely it's possible for Alpha to stop the skid at 7 losses. That's pretty much the storyline going into this for me, because this has been a team just on a permanent just slide straight towards the bottom here, as they're really just a one-trick pony. It's about K-Wave and Xiaotu. If they get ahead, they have a chance. If they get behind, this team's dead in the water. And, well, they're 1-13.
I do have to agree with all your sentiments right there. Like, we have seen them do great things, but for the most of the time, they just throw themselves into the fire and they get destroyed. So it's definitely kind of sad to see this team in this state. You know, as a reminder, they actually were a 5th place team in the PCS during 2020, but in 2021, they just have been perennial bottom feeders at this point. So we'll see if they can bring the roster up a little bit. We'll see if, you know, it's not even really about player skill. It's not really even about their champion picks or their comps at this point. I just think it's about decision making and actually just not taking terrible fights, because we have seen in recent games that they just continuously all in and wish for Hail Marys in very, very low percentage plays. And I don't know what they're expecting, but they haven't found wins from it. On the other side, we have Berjaya Dragons, which I feel like in a very different predicament, where they have very obvious win conditions. Get power picks like Gwen, Lee Sin, and LeBlanc. And everyone knows about that. So it's, for them, it's more about, hey, can you transition into a second set of picks? While on, you know, Alpha Esports side is like, well, you know, you have a couple picks to play around, but it's kind of keeping yourself alive throughout the entire game.
Yeah, and I mean, for the side of Berjaya, their decision making has been relatively sound. It's just against a lot of these more difficult teams, they really do struggle when it comes to the lane phase and getting out of these lane phases and intact. That when it comes to those better decisions later on, it doesn't matter how good your decision is if the wallets are just that much heavier on the other half of the map. Now, we are going to be going into a matchup between AD carries. On has done relatively fine, I feel, when it comes to laning, especially when you look at where the focus comes for on his team. It is all in on the jungle mid. You end up sacrificing a lot in top side, you end up sacrificing a lot in the bot lane as well, and he's still able to output fairly respectable damage numbers.
For sure, and he has been the one that has pioneered a lot of different picks that we've seen. Misfortune is one of them. Didn't really work out. We went through kind of the reasons why we don't see Misfortune these days. There are no front-to-back team comps. Very few of them play that way, so you have no AoE. And then you have the Varus, which was he was actually the first one to bring this one out. So at the end of the split, this is usually what we see from Alpha Esports, but they go absolutely crazy. They go deep into their pockets, into their, you know, I think collectively these guys have decades of experience. They're actually a very experienced team. So they're not exactly 200 years, but they're at least like 2 decades. So they can dig into that, pull out some random picks that you've never seen, and surprise you with. That's exactly what they did in spring. It didn't get them into playoffs, but I feel like that might be what they're going back to again.
they're going to need to dig up some dark technology here if they want to make the dream run happen, because again, this team is not mathematically eliminated quite yet.
Yes.
However, a loss here would do so. So they have to win out, and they need a couple things to happen for them to actually get to that tiebreak situation. And for Berjaya, it's about getting the win when it's a softball matchup, and this is probably about as softball of a matchup as you can get in our league.
If Alpha lose here, the most wins they can get is lowered down to 4 wins. You have 18 games in total, and I believe because of the head-to-head situation, it actually would eliminate them from a lot of the contenders that are now sitting at 4 wins. Hong Kong Attitude, of course, would be out of reach if that does happen. We'll go into the specifics later on, but for now, going into the draft, Alpha Esports taking away from Arashi. Lee Sin is his best champion. It is the most played on the patch. They're going to get it. While Berjaya, they go for the Volibear pick. It's something that's very steady, can be flexed, and Minji gets his LeBlanc. So I think it's a bit of tit for tat here, both taking away some of the best champion pools that the other has to offer.
And for the most part, it also limits Xiaotu's impact in this game, right? Because this is the killer duo that really is so domineering in this league. You have so much execution power with the LeBlanc Lee Sin. And again, when the team is built around just using these 2 players to find kills and advantages, that's going to be a big detriment to how they get to play the game. But they go for a Casio pick instead, and then they add in a Renekton, which is going to be a bit of a different dynamic for the side of Alpha.
Ooh, I love this old golden counter pick coming out from Xiaotu here. We have seen this work before. You can trap the LeBlanc, not allow her to use Distort, and Lee Sin flies in for the kill. But on the flip side, we do get a Gnar. I think we've made our feelings about both of these picks pretty clear. Is Kennen really that bad? I actually feel like Kennen is fine, personally. I don't mind the Kennen as much. I'll be honest, like, against Lee Sin and against Cassiopeia, okay, actually, the more I think about it, the worse it gets. It's a very difficult entry. I'll give you that. But think about the buffs. 30 more damage on Q, level 9, plus a 0.05 AP ratio increase.
Yeah. He did get some Q buffs, and it helps him out, I would say, in the laning phase more so than the actual team fight. But yeah, honestly, the 2 champs chucked into the top lane, I pretty much couldn't care less. It feels like we're going to be looking at a 4v4, Clement.
I will say I actually like Kennen more than Har. I think that...
Yeah, I do like that. Yes. At least you can press R whenever you want, instead of being stuck in a situation where you can only press R in a very small time window. As Berjaya, go ahead, ban away some of those playmaking or defensive supports, I would say, there in the Rakan and Braum, and on the flip side, Alistar's taken away, and also K2's Ezreal. Ezreal's been a massive pick for him, and we'll see what his answer is going to be, as Ziggs is technically still available, which is a power pick in our league, but not really a pick either of these teams really enjoy playing.
I just want to say that this is the perfect anti-Kennen composition. You have Buster Shot that can knock him out, Dragon's Rage that kicks him back, Magnet Storm that keeps him in place, and Miasma he can't really go through, and it's just it feels really bad. I feel like Berjaya, what they need is actually a long range AD carry to force the enemy team into them, but they're gonna go for Kaisa. So yeah, good luck with that charging into Cassiopeia strategy. That looks painful.
This composition or this draft feels very much like sumo wrestling. Because you just have these 2 compositions with really not a whole lot of pivoting. It's just teams that just want to draft what they want and hopefully their comfort on these champions will take them over the line. But looking at it, no, there's okay. So K-Babe is currently on Cassio jungle at the 20-second mark. So there might be okay. I would assume there's a swap there, but
no.
Okay.
Well, from what we heard, like, no, Cassio's actually still. I think he's still. Yeah, Cassio's going mid.
Right.
We just got confirmation. It was just like
there was a little bit of a lag there, so I was up.
Yeah,
I was definitely concerned, but thankfully concerned tossed out.
I'd be very concerned if that was a Cassio jungle.
K-Babe kind of just does what he wants. So if he he really wanted to, he probably had control. He was the one in control of whether to accept the trade or not, Clement.
Yeah. We did get confirmation from production that it is the standard lanes, the Cassiopeia mid, and I think it's going to be Lee Sin into the jungle, for sure. And I actually feel like Alpha Esports has a decided advantage right here. Like, I actually like their comp a lot better than what they have against.
Yeah, as much as I hated the back and forth,
Cassiopeia, it's just
the back and forth in the draft wasn't very good. But in the end, Alpha, this is a composition that is insanely powerful against the particular set of champions that Berjaya have drafted. There's no way in for this Kennen. It's a pretty difficult life for the LeBlanc as well, just trying to get in and out. You have to be so on point in distorting back to make sure you don't get locked down. And then for K2, he's on a Kaisa pick when Ziggs was available against a very low range composition. He could have just destroyed the entire draft with that pick alone. And the Kaisa pick, yes, you can go in with the Kennen. The issue is the Kennen isn't going to be able to go in.
Yeah, I felt like they had to go for an AD pick there because the rest of the map was completely AP. So they had like Alpha Esports also knew that there was no chance that they actually went for Ziggs right there. So they were very happy. I think that Tristana was so smart as well because Tristana outranges in the late game. You don't have to go into a Kennen, and you can also push people back. So I don't know. I feel like Berjaya just drafted themselves into a hole. That's they could make picks work. I think that's definitely possible. But if I look at the 5v5, I'm looking at a straight up massacre. That being said, a lot of times Alpha Esports, it's not about the comp they draft, it's about the way they play it. So in theory, in both of our opinions, they have the lead. In practice, could be another case.
That's going to be the big question, right? Because in practice, this is a composition that needs to communicate relatively well. As far as cooldowns go, like, hey, I've got miasma up. The moment I use miasma, someone else has to keep track of where that Kennen is to prevent him from getting into our back line. And this will be a real test as far as Alpha as a team. Can they communicate well enough in these 5v5 scenarios to somehow cruise their way to a victory?
Yeah, I love the point you pointed out right there, and it's a theory in League of Legends that is somewhat counterintuitive, but a lot of times counter-engage compositions are actually harder to play than full-on engage compositions, because in counter-engage comps, you actually need to portion your crowd control correctly. Like, if you all use it on the same target, you're still all dying. And that often happens with teams without a lot of coordination. So we'll see if they can, save layered counter engage for what's coming for them, because you're gonna have to stop a Kennen, you're gonna have to stop a LeBlanc, you're gonna have to stop a Kaisa that's gonna be running in on you, and you definitely want to hold certain abilities for each one coming in. And if you blow everything on the Kennen, then Kaisa might just be able to clean up the entire team fight. That's definitely a possibility. That being said, though, I feel like if Alpha Esports just don't do anything crazy, they stand in front of objective, there's actually nothing Berjaya can do to them. There's really just straight up nothing Berjaya can actually do to them. Are you going to fly into a Cassiopeia? I don't think that's possible. I think that's suicide. Same thing about the Kennen. Like, this is an have you seen one of those, like, those tests in the lab where you drop a mice into a maze and you put like peanut butter footprints around and you have them go across obstacles like that. Like this rat is going through like electrical tripwires. He's going through mouse traps. He's going through like I don't know, spikes in the ground, live grenades and stuff like that. It's so incredibly difficult for this Kennen to do anything this game. Like I honestly think this Kennen's gonna be useless. He's gonna throw a couple shurikens in lane, and it's like team fights. It's just gonna be like, well, I ulted. They had exhaust. I'm sorry. That was it. I tried my best.
Yeah. I mean, one of the big questions is, did they manage to actually pick exhaust, or did they just go for ignite? That's another question, of course. I would hope that they grabbed exhaust because.
Yeah, I think exhaust is. What's the support they got again? It was Rel, right? Yeah, I think ignite is possible. Like, given how much disengage you have, like I think ignite's actually still fine, just because you have buster shot as well. It's like, oh, okay, I'll give that a pass.
You say that.
That's yeah, I say that.
It's all
exhaust should be
premonition.
better, but, you know, I think
it's all set up for the most spectacular Kennen 1v5 play ever. It's gonna be
okay. I want to see it. I want to see if he actually. Oh my god! If he actually manages to get a smeb. I was watching that game live. You know, it was so funny because we were right. Like I was in the media room on that world, and the media room was right next to they were Nox Tigers, right? That was the name.
I believe it was Rox Tigers. Yeah.
No, it was, like the other team. The other team that.
Oh.
Like the
Albus Nox?
I think it was the CIS team. Yeah, Albus Nox. Yeah, because we were sitting right next to their room, and they were actually just playing Warcraft. They were straight up raiding, and then when we turned on the television, it's like, wait a minute, what?
How are they this
like,
good?
I guess Warcraft raiding is actually better than scrimming. Like Warcraft raids are actually
you're practicing
hard,
your
so
communications.
At least they were back in the day. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, you gotta switch tanks, you gotta heal people, you gotta keep buffs going and stuff like that. So
keep track of cooldowns.
All I can say.
So maybe Alpha have gone into the WoW training room to actually prepare themselves for today, because they have to be on point with their cooldown tracking.
Okay.
Ironically,
look, I would love to see it. I don't think it's gonna happen, but you know, you have Countercaster, Cursed, we'll see whose Cursed is stronger, basically. I think Alpha Esports should still win. I trust in Laba. This is what Laba always does. He does this every single split, where he goes into the last, like, his team is falling apart, he goes into the last stretch, and then he pulls out a couple wins. He did this in Brazil as well. So, trust Laba. Let's go. I think he actually drafted really well. And this is something I actually want to commend. You know, like, I feel like Alpha Esports, sure, their gameplay is one issue, but their drafts sometimes have actually been really nice.
That is true. Yeah, and it's not necessarily been the champions. Again, you mentioned it's the champions haven't been the issue. It's not been play meta stuff. It's just been the execution of the minutia of some of these compositions that's been problematic.
Yeah.
Alpha.
We do have a bit of technical difficulties, and we will continue to rant here because there is a lot to rant about. I still can't believe Alpha Esports was 5th place in spring. Man, this is something that really kills me inside. Oh yeah. They had some great players there that shifted over to the LDL. They had Kino that obviously went to Megabank Beyond Gaming. But this was still a team that was projected to be a decent top 6 team and a challenger for the rest of the league. You think about all those great fights that Machi used to fight with J-Team, not even J-Team, MSE back in the day, and later on, we got J-Team with Mission, and those were really close games. Like those were some fun games to watch. And then you have old AHQ. Man, I loved watching old AHQ. There was this one game where they went MSI. There were 12,000 gold up on T1. Season 5 T1 in their prime. Of course, they lost that game because, macro-wise, they weren't exactly the best. But they really reawakened a sort of flame in me. You know, you kind of kindle back those memories and think, oh, what could have been if these players actually got everything together, got a lucky roll. They could have been, in my opinion, AHQ Season 5 was still the best team that LMS ever produced. Like, that team was, in that year, probably a top 4 world team. It's just unfortunate that they ran into T1 every corner.
Yeah. I mean, On was on that roster as well, I believe.
Yeah, he was.
So, you know.
He definitely was. They were the first guys to pull out Jinx and Tom Kench at Worlds.
That was on.
And that was a great combo for multiple years. Yeah. I'm just a boomer talking to myself in a hollowed room to a league that's already been disbanded. But you know what? The LMS is still the best league to ever be disbanded. I always tell the LCO guys that. You know, OPL has done great things, but they were not the best to be disbanded. We were.
And now our legacy lives on.
That's the story.
Make your legacy.
True. In the PCS. Let's go. Yeah. You got 2 teams here.
Full circle.
I want to ask you this. Who do you think the 2 teams are going to be at the end of the year? I think PSG
that
is
we're sending
much,
the worlds.
Like, kind of
I mean, PSG is kind of a lock.
Yeah.
But
I'm actually not 100% confident about BYG though. That's the one I'm not sure.
It's the Megabank Beyond Gaming, and I would say Machi for the most part for me. Between those two, while I think Boom have very high ceiling, with how their games are very, very on the fence. When you go back and watch, it's like it comes down to very small moments that actually break the game for them, and the fact that it always goes to very long game timers is definitely concerning when it comes to playoff situations. And I think the other 2 teams are a little bit more concise with their gameplay and more decisive.
Yeah, if we look around like the contenders, I think we're pretty much talking about the top 5. And PSG's locked in, probably first seed. But the rest of the 4 teams, J-Team, Boom Esports, Beyond Gaming, and Machi are really who we're talking about. And I agree with you. I think out of the rest of the 4 teams, Boom Esports definitely has the lowest ceilings. Like, when their games go poorly, they just go nowhere. Like,
they have the highest skill ceiling,
I think
but their execution is...
And the lowest floor. That's what I should say. Yeah.
They're all
the highest ceiling and the lowest floor at the same time. I think Machi, for me, is the most consistent of the teams. Like, they will not pivot off a 1-3-1 for their life. They will not go into a 5v5 team comp because, frankly, they don't really have the roster to play front to back team comp. If I'm being completely honest, I'm sorry, Atlan, but I don't think Machi expects you to hard carry anytime soon.
Hey, that's why they have
so
D.
They're pretty much stuck to 1-3-1. Oh! I almost forgot about that. D at Worlds was lit. Oh my.
Yeah, and he is listed on their roster, so you never know. They might bring in the curveball D.
That is good. I always like when they bring D. You know, it's kind of funny, but like D's been so impactful to the PCS, and I don't think people even know about it. But he's been working in a Dongtai High School as basically a counselor for their esports program. And you know, guys like Lee Kai, guys like I think Doggo, Bivin, Patience, you know, some of them didn't really work out, but a lot of players actually came out of D's program. So this is you know, it's great to see someone who's had a good career in League of Legends as a pro player and then go up to bring up the next generation of players in the same region. It's great to see. And you know, I've always been very suspect on esports programs from schools. I'll be honest, there's a ton of scammers. A ton of them do not actually do anything but scam money, or they're like glorified summer camps and some shit like that. But that one actually really did work. Like, kudos to them that they actually ran a tight on the rails esports program for high school talent that produces professional players. And I'm just like, wow, that's insane. Like, very few programs actually do that.
Yeah, and if you're able to be successful, like,
that's again my rant. Sorry.
The more you produce, like, the more local talent you're able to generate. That also alleviates a lot of pressure on teams trying to overforce their budget onto trying to get an import. So I think
Mhm.
overall it's healthy for the local scene. Like, just look at NA. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of money being tossed around for. I don't know, Clement.
Yeah, when I heard about the salaries, it's always like so crazy to me. Like when I started working in esports, like literally when you were an analyst, people would pay you in mouse pads and RP. I was like, yay, I got 100 RP, I can buy half a skin today for my work. And now these days it's like, well, our market cap is 300 million US dollars. But that's enough of a rant. I hope you guys enjoyed all of that. If you have some questions, you can throw them in chat. Well, probably if we have more difficulties, we'll come back to them. But for now, we're gonna be taking a short break and hopefully returning really soon to Alpha Esports versus Berjaya Dragons.
A lot of attention being focused bottom. Speaking of, K-Babe is actually here. And they found Koala. There's the stun off. Do they have enough to go for the dive, though? Mega Inferno Bomb and even the teleport coming through. Looking for the Stormbringer. K-Babe on top of Atlan, looking for it. Cannot find the kill as the stun lock comes in. And now Gemini into the backline he goes. Followed up by Lee Kai. Vanguard's edge, and Lee Kai just opens up as they shred through Alpha Esports. Only 3Z remaining. The triple kill coming in for the Aurelia. Lee Kai wants to make it a quadra, and he can't quite do it. It's stolen away by Scumbag V. I think they'll be able to do it at this point. J-Team just got into a rhythm. Very comfortable one for themselves. Last-ditch effort by Arachi going in. Look at the kickback on Rest, just deleting the backline. This
It's 1-for-1.
is an absolute monster. Ozzy comes in on the teleport backline, but he's got no team left.
They don't have the damage at this point. Machi are dealing far more. And Eminem walking
Oh
into
no!
Gemini.
Oh no! That was a terrible blast cone.
Very questionable on that one. G-Mian's also holding Hong Kong attitude to this tower here. I don't think they can make the retreat. Here comes the kills.
Oh, big one. This time it is going to be enough as Gemini goes golden before the tower can target him. Shelly even hops before the fight even happens. Collier can't even clean up Gemini, and it is all much.
Impunity get their way. I think they're going to run away with this game, and frankly, I do favor their draft just a little bit. On Boom Esports side, we have a bit of shenanigans coming in. The Ruby mid lane Ezreal has only been played once before.
Okay, he's got a shift and a flash, and
that was epic!
Not enough to escape as Epic gets the first blood.
I'm down.
Yeah, let's do it. If this whole casting thing doesn't work out, we'll just start a financial institution, all right? All right, fight is on for the Boom Esports, looking for more, and the pull-in from Alex is huge. That's the fight they're looking for. Wako opens out.
Watch Leon, though.
Beyond Gaming around the backline. In comes Leon, but the damage follow-up is not there
Wako's still
anymore.
alive, though.
As
Wako's
the
still
double kill
alive.
comes in for Wako, and Mawa is trying. Oh, I don't believe it. Can he go for it? The quadra. All he needs is one more party going over to get himself the pentakill.
And welcome back to Alpha Esports and Berjaya Dragons. I have been told that our issues have been resolved and we will be heading into game very, very soon. Thanks for sticking on with us. You know, this has been a bit of a trouble with a couple teams in the PCS. A really interesting thing is that we connect all over this part of the globe, whether it's in Southeast Asia, whether it's coming from mainland China and everywhere else. There are a couple of server issues going on. Not really server issues, but, you know, it's a little bit harder with the logistics of everything. So thank you guys for bearing in with us. These are going to be the compositions, and me and Nightstar have been chatting about this quite a bit. We do feel like Alpha Esports has a very strong technical win with their composition. They have great counter engage, great denial. While on Berjaya's side, it is more of a pick comp where you have Kaisa and LeBlanc flying into you, trying to get that pick off to start an uneven numbers fight.
Yeah, and for Berjaya's composition, if they are going to succeed, you're going to see a lot of dive attempts coming in on these side lanes, whether or not it's in that top lane against the Renekton, or more than likely this bottom lane, because you have Kaisa Leona, very aggressive duo, and then you also have, of course, the turret disabling capabilities of the Volibear. So for Berjaya, it's about Arashi playing super aggressive, look to blow some flashes early on, and truly hammer home an advantage down in the bot. Otherwise, this Kaisa is just going to be outmatched all around.
And that seems to be the breaking point for Alpha Esports. We have seen many times in their early game where they died and everyone funnels in even after a losing start, and then they just give everything away. So if we're thinking about the history of these two teams, maybe there is a little bit more merit to Berjaya Dragon's composition than we are giving it credit for. We were both pretty negative on it because of the fact you have to run into Tristana Cassiopeia. Just doesn't seem very fun. But if we're talking about the bot lane skirmishes, that really has been one point that teams have exploited Alpha Esports over and over again. We're going to be taking a look at the runes right here. Double electrocutes coming in. You know, it's been a while since we have seen this Kennen pick. Last time I believe we saw Hell of Blades Kennen, but this time it is going to be electrocute for the extra damage, just burst damage on the combo here. We'll see how that one works out. A little bit better in short trades rather than extended ones. In the meantime, we do get a cheeky ward in by Berjaya Dragons. I absolutely love this ward coming in. Very helpful on the red buff, as they are going to spot out this spot from K-Babe with the leash.
And it's, I would assume, something that Minji set up here with, of course, the distortion on that LeBlanc. So it will be full knowledge of where K-Babe is starting. That helps alleviate a lot of pressure on this bottom side as well. They can play super aggressive to try and deny or as much farm from this Tristana as possible. Also, just the fact that as a rel, it's relatively let's say it's a good scaling champion, but can struggle a lot during the lane phase.
Well, as we see a level 1 engage coming in by Sheng, and tags on the explosive charge to K2, and both sides back out in the end, but a bit of an HP advantage for Alpha Esports coming in. Meanwhile, on the top side, we are taking a look at the new and improved Kennen on 11.15. Good buffs to his Q. We'll see if players actually start maxing this one first, or still sticking to the W, which was far more common in the rest of the meta. So pay close attention to how Ozzy does skill into this Kennen. But if we take a look at it, he is coming out with a very relaxed start, to be honest. Just going for the cull right off the bat, not even going for the Dorn's Blade for extra damage. Knowing he can get away with for the extra gold.
This is definitely a very greedy start. So K-Babe starting bot side here certainly leads one to think that they're going to go aggressive top, but a nice disengage coming in, nice little buffer from On, and Sheng making sure to tank that void missile there. And yeah, another buff is of course the Cassio, which gets 10 extra damage on the, I believe, the empowered E, which, I mean, that doubles the amount of damage you do at level 1 from the extra empowerment, which is a big boon in her trading powers.
We are seeing some mages coming back into the meta. The level 3 dive coming in with Enzo
early.
flashing on. First blood over to K2, and Enzo survived this. Does get out with the heal, and now On has to blow his summoner already. So just a great play from Berjaya. They get the wave shove. They know that the Lee Sin is top lane, and they're willing to go for the kill.
Yeah, but now Ozzy, he is in trouble. Doesn't have the extra defensive stats from a Doran's item, so this dive is very much possible. He has to somehow cut the wave.
Oh, 3Z takes a bit early, and Ozzy is able to get away with the flash. But now
Xiaotu's
coming in with the miasma. Nowhere for Ozzy to go. And we talked about the mouse in the maze. I think we're off to a good start here, as Ozzy without his flash and just getting killed here. Not to a great start.
Yeah, loses a couple minions. I believe he still got the EXP for those minions as he dies pretty much after most of that wave dies to the turret, but definitely doesn't help his cause, especially again, he is holding the cull, so no extra battle stats provided. And we'll look for Alpha to go aggressive yet again in that top side repeatedly. And Berjaya, they want to continue to revisit that bot lane. They aren't going to have the teleport to help supplement the dive, but what they are going to have is a level 6 LeBlanc that's going to output a whole lot more damage.
For sure, and we'll see if Berjaya can actually leave lane with their mid jungle to set up that play once more. That's been a very common thread in Alpha Esports games, is they just do not defend their bot lane. Many teams do take advantage of that, as we have seen. Very early dive coming in. And I think for now, Ozzy should actually be okay. It's not easy to dive a level 6 Kennen with the Slicing Maelstrom. He's about to get there, and he also does have the stopwatch. So I think the bullying of Kennen is going to be difficult to keep up. In the meantime, Berjaya, they've already gotten the flash from On. That is a much more likely target. And 3Z with the wave control, able to roam in, get a couple of Raptors. He's going to get his friendly chicken bucket right here. Takes 5 of them. Can he get the full bucket?
It's pretty good.
Arashi does not have the smite just yet, but he'll still get it. Yeah, probably left the chicken wings for Arashi there. That's always what gets taken last.
He left the best part,
at the very least. The
at
chicken
the very
wing
least,
is
he
the
left
best
the best
part.
You know. Well, he left the big
KFC?
raptor.
Minji does go in, gets the chain onto Xiaotu, and that should be an easy kill. Ooh, and unfortunately for him, the Q is unstoppable for Arashi as he still manages to get that one to land. I think K-Babe wasn't spotted, but Ozzy definitely having a premonition there. And it's going to stay safe.
No reason to fully walk up to the tower there as well, given the fact that the wave was just going to crash. If 3Z or 3Z try to cut the wave to freeze it, I'd imagine Ozzy might overstep his bounds to try and crash that wave, but it doesn't end up happening. And that means Berjaya are the ones to get out to an early lead. Again, this is a comp that if both teams are relatively even skilled, then you're looking at this comp as needing to snowball a lot faster. But now Minji, you know, they are kind of to their breakpoints where they can start doing things. This is their power spike. You have level 6 on both the jungler and the top laner. You can go ham now, find those big AoE kind of team fights, at least for the time period.
Yeah, they definitely still have that opportunity to attack the bottom side. As we mentioned before, On still no flash, and that historically has been sort of the weak spot where teams do target them out. Meanwhile, Xiaotu is going to get hit up again by the chain, unable to trade much back here. And this matchup is getting a bit out of hand at this point already. Very interesting to see that. 3Z does go in, but doesn't actually get the empowered stun. Uses the slice and dice completely and actually loses a lot of HP for that. So I'm not really sure what he was trying to accomplish right there. In the meantime, though, Alpha Esports, they do have all members here setting up a trap for Enzo, and they do find their target. Enzo very far behind enemy lines, but in the backside, Rel does die first, and Enzo gets out okay. K2 on the chase with the second kill. Actually still goes over to Minji. Xiaotu finally finds a return. Is going to find 2. And then 3Z comes in, but isn't able to find the correct target here. And they both just walk past each other. Very interesting to see that one. Neither side willing to continue to go on to the Herald, and that's just going to be a 2 for 2. No killer instincts, so he's fine.
Clement, it actually ends up being a 2 for 3 here because Ozzy dies in the 1v1 against 3Z. So Ozzy, we thought he was in a good spot, but we might spot it in the replay, but it starts out with Enzo walking up and just going, all right, I'm going in. And they exchange supports. And over on this top side, we are going to see how this fight comes through. And Ozzy holds on to the ult for such a long time. That was a bit of a greedy play. Not gonna lie. And as a result,
should have used that.
Yeah, it should have been a 3-for-2 in favor of Berjaya there if he goes ahead, channels the ult a lot earlier, able to get the peel then, or at least zone him off, and then the rest of the team would be able to follow up. But now Alpha going straight back onto this Rift Herald. Berjaya still seem interested in challenging, but they don't have ult cooldowns available on their big teamfight ult, so it's really just not a feasible fight to take.
Yeah, we do have Berjaya now swapped into a different lane allocation, and in fact Alpha Esports as well. So they still have a lot of pick potential with Kaisa in the mid lane here, but like we said, it's just hard seeing Berjaya Dragons actually come out ahead in a 5v5 scenario. They have to work through so many different obstacles as On is pouncing very heavily. I guess he missed a couple of minions in the bot lane or something, but doesn't seem very happy with how the game is going so far. So we switch over to Xiao here. So, you know, I do think we expect Berjaya Dragons to do a little bit better when it comes to side lane picks, and maybe they can swap into earlier allocation with Minji in a side lane, and that opens up more chances for them.
Yeah, you bring up a good point with, of course, this 1-3-1 style composition. Looks like we're getting
Enzo is going in for the counter engage. Solar Flare down, but doesn't lock Sheng in place. Killer Instinct has to be used.
That's a flash.
Again, we have the Stormbringer
Good
getting
kick.
kicked out. Unfortunate for Arashi, has not been able to get these to land either time in the team fights, and Minji has to walk away now. The full 5 team is here, and that is Threezy actually just walking down here. I don't think he uses TP. Does allow Ozzy a little bit of time in the top side. And Alpha Esports, they are still considering where to drop this Herald. Do you think mid lane probably a little bit better, as we do see the group up here?
Yeah, they still have the Herald available.
Arashi gonna get opened up onto. Stun doesn't find him, but he still has to flash regardless.
Wait,
now Enzo goes in. Very dangerous play from him, as we see Magnet Storm coming down onto both targets. K2 finds his mark on the backline. Tristana not going to go in any further, and that saves Enzo's life here. Whew, very close fight coming in from both teams, but once again, it's Ozzy that is the real victor. He gets a much more alone time on the top side.
He gets absolutely completely ignored top side. They're going to expend Minji's teleport here, but I don't think it's good enough to save the tower. You're going to get the charge in, and it will go down. It is going to be split among 3 members. So that's the good news for Berjaya, because they're able to get solo plate gold. So the gold funneled into this Kennen pick is important, because if he ever gets backline access with this extra gold, they will explode. So the moment Alpha make a blunder in having the Kennen marked, look for Berjaya to really take advantage of those missing cooldowns and kind of go for a big Hail Mary play early on.
Does have the Rocket Belt already, one of the earlier mythics on the map right now, the only one for his team. So maybe that could be a way for Kennen to find his engages and just blow up the backline like we mentioned before. But for now, mid lane's actually wide open. Alpha Esports, they have a large portion of the map now under their control. They can move into river first whenever they want to. And it just looks like Berjaya is, you know, they do have some lane leads, especially in their solo lanes. Well, they have to transition that into actual kills to wrestle back this map control.
You could even say that they own lane leads all across the map. Yes, the Kennen is down 2 kills, but he's been able to get infinite amount of plates and a lot of extra CS to compensate, even though he did die. And in the mid lane, it's pretty dead even, and this bottom lane is also a little bit out of control as far as just items. It doesn't have quite the completed mythic, but once that comes through because of the extra lethality, you're in a very powerful position here as well. And it's about being able to snowball leads, and for Berjaya, it's been a mixed bag when it comes to that.
We do have Berjaya with the priority in mid lane now encroaching onto the bottom side. This is a 4v3 situation, but Alpha Esports are keeping their distance very far behind the tower at this point. And will walk up. And the mid lane, Xiaotu does not have the TP, so Berjaya can just keep on running this play over and over again. They don't really have anything to defend mid lane, so they can actually just send LeBlanc down here whenever they want to.
Yeah, and it's those mismatched timings on the teleports here, as they will have 3Z's teleport available, but it can be matched by Ozzy. So look for these top laners to perhaps fish for a play with their squad, especially if one of these bot lanes overextend themselves too far. And now we're just kind of waiting for the next dragon, which is coming up in 70 seconds. So a fight's not too far away from us. Clement and Berjaya hold a very narrow lead, but right now I would say their composition has an advantage still because of where the power spikes are.
Yeah, for sure. They do have that burst potential to just kill one target, and we've been seeing Minji just take down Xiaotu to half HP over and over again. Whenever he has that electrocute, he just goes in, frees himself up in the lane. Now, Alpha Esports, they know that the next fight is going to be centered around this Herald. They're setting up for a pick already. This is the famous Alpha Esports Death Rush. I think most teams should be aware of this possibility and act with caution, but I would not be surprised if someone still falls prey to this. Ozzy, on the meantime, he is going to get a good angle against On if they so choose to, and the rest of the squad is moving in. On still has no idea this is going to happen. Slicing Maelstrom comes down, and he takes down On without landing the Q. Just the burst damage from him, that's going to open up the Herald wide open right now. And Alpha Esports, they have to scurry to the other side of the map.
They will be able to get Dragon to compensate, and to be honest, like for Alpha, I would say the Dragon is much more worth it at this moment. Berjaya, they're not going to get a whole lot of extra gold off of this Rift Herald, and it's going to be up to them to try and accelerate the pace, try and get a tier 2 tower with this Rift Herald. That's going to be the big deal. If they're able to secure that, that possibly opens up a little bit more of the map for when that next dragon happens. But the replay shows, well, On the rest of his fam going home, and he's left out to dry. But we already see this is the investment of all that gold into that cannon pick paying off, and On doesn't even channel that buster shot to even give himself a chance.
Yeah, didn't really get the knock back. Wanted to get away as soon as possible, but I agree with you. I felt like buster shot first might have been a better idea. Unfortunately, doesn't get that one to go and just dies. I felt like it was a bit of a surprise for him as well. And that's just the power of the alcove. You can't sneak around without people in the lane actually seeing you. There is that sort of corner of the brush that is a little bit hard to detect, but you can actually sneak past that without anyone seeing you, and it's exactly what Ozzy did right there. A great find on his part. We are going to get Berjaya with the Herald. For me, this should be a mid drop, just to wrestle control over the Drake, but not exactly sure where they will be placing it. Keep close attention here.
Yeah, it makes the most sense to try and get it down mid to try and even out that turret or mid pressure there. But if they're able to get a tier 2, you would obviously want that to happen instead because of the extra little bit of gold investment you can get from tier 2 towers now on the side lane. It's just a matter of can they actually get access to one of those towers. Otherwise, I feel like they're not going to get a tower out of it, to be fair.
Certainly feels that way. If we look at the wave clear, it's definitely an advantage of Alpha Esports. You have Tristana and you also have Cassiopeia. I feel like these two champions are very good at just holding down their towers. However, Berjaya are still going to go for a try here. This is not synced up with any other objective. It's just I call this just a raw Herald drop, just getting it for the tower, and they should be successful here. It's going down very low, and On has to be careful on the backside. Half his HP goes down and forces the teleport immediately here. Berjaya Dragons with a great poke game, just targeting On over and over again.
Bit of a excess cooldown expended there coming in from Xiaotu, burning that teleport. So it's overall a big win for Berjaya, being able to get burst damage, but now 3Z coming in on flank.
Trying to stop the cop bear, but they don't get him to slow down. I think that fits with my experience as well. You can't really wave police cars down. That's usually how it goes. They go wherever they please. And unfortunately for them, they don't find it. Arashi with a great stun on the back end to make sure that play doesn't continue. A couple question marks coming down here and there. I feel like we are seeing, you know, something that we didn't really expect out of this game. We felt like Alpha Esports could stand their ground and just 5-man stack on objectives. But to be honest, Berjaya Dragons, they never really fight Alpha Esports in a straight-up 5v5. They're always great at getting poke beforehand or sneaking across flanks and finding off picks. So well done by Berjaya not playing towards their opposition's win condition.
Yeah, and right now it's just a different understanding of their compositions. Berjaya, they understand that they need to play a lot of smoke and mirrors when it comes to their approach to these fights. You saw it from Ozzy coming in from the alcove. You also see it from Minji jumping over the walls, trying to get his full combo down onto On, even investing the ultimate, because you know the chip damage is more important than saving your full combo to make sure you can get the full kill. Now on the flip side, for Alpha, they haven't really done a whole lot. They're just waiting, continue to farm up on these side lanes. It's like, it makes sense for some of these champions, right? With the Casio and the Tristana. These are champions that want to slowly scale up, get their items, get their breakpoints. However, time is still ticking onto champs like K-Babe or on the Lee Sin and on 3Z with this Renekton. They need to start fishing a little bit more.
Yeah, and we're seeing Alpha Esports starting to go for the Drake, but the enemy team is onto them.
Oh,
they do find On. He has to flash out Cleanse too, but still
Not
dies to the last hit here coming in from K2. The fight is now on with Berjaya in hot pursuit. Xiaotu is going to dodge away from the chains, but that's incredibly easy to find that kill. On burns both Summoner plus Buster Shot and still dies.
Yeah, just too much damage coming out at this point. And they're going to try and cut off the rotations going over to the mid lane. As they see the 3-man stack and go, well, you know what? We'll take the turret and we'll let you walk away. But now we have the inside track onto the Cloud Dragon. So it's really just a better macro rotational gameplay coming in from Berjaya. They get that pick. Then they immediately say, well, we have the inside track onto this mid lane tower. The side of Alpha go, oh, shoot. Well, we're behind on the play. We have to rotate over to this mid lane tower, but in a safer fashion. So they have to take a long route. By the time they get back to that mid lane, Berjaya are like, well, we've already finished the tower. Let's get the other thing. And they go and grab themselves a dragon.
Big gold lead starting to develop for Berjaya Dragons, and this is the Alpha Esports Hail Mary. Instantly spotted out though. I a little
jungler senses tingling.
Yeah, that felt like a play you would do if you had Leandre's Anguish, but with Everfrost, I'm not so sure that's the play. And Alpha Esports get called out on it immediately. And most important about that chain of events is that the Drake stacking is just broken. Like, Berjaya have that leeway to kind of play with the map. They don't have to worry about Soul being a big issue here. And I'm just a little bit flabbergasted that we have not seen Alpha Esports just try to stack all their members together. Like, if they just do a death ball into objectives, I still don't think Berjaya can pick them off one by one. It's so difficult to run into Casio. And you have Renekton and Casio both with instant stuns. And Rel can actually do very similar things too. So the risk factor is so high, but unfortunately they just have not been able to pull it off and sync these groupings together.
And now they could just get flanked upon. They need to be careful not to walk too far out. It does seem like they have an inkling of what's going on, and they do spot out that word, so well done from Alpha to listen to their instincts. But now it's matter of, well, what do you actually want to do? They finally have done what you've asked for, which is 5-man death ball, and it makes a lot of sense. They've hit their 2-item power spike. This is where things start to shift their way. Berjaya on 1 item, a lot more powerful. On 2 items, it changes a little bit. But after the 2nd item, honestly, it just gets better and better for Alpha, for their carries especially. So this is the big turning point. Can they find a way to either find a team fight or to slow things down to get to that 3rd item breakpoint?
Yeah, they might be waiting a little while longer for On to get something like a Bloodthirster where he has sustain, where he can actually walk in the front line and trade back. Right now, he's not.
End.
Yeah, something like that. Right now, he's just like standing very far behind. Oh, Wizard actually is a pretty good buy here as well. I actually like that idea a lot. Good call on that one. But it looks like the poke is actually just keeping Alpha Esports in position, and that's why the Drake stacking being broken is just so detrimental. Looks like Alpha Esports still might be fishing for an early Baron play here. I'm not sure they really have the damage to go for it, though. It's a little sus in my eyes.
Well, once they get to a 3rd item, for sure, they'll be able to just blast that. But at this point, it's going to take a little bit of time. Yes, the Casio still does immense amount of single target damage. But you're going to need, again, a lapse of judgment from Berjaya more than anything to be able to pull that play off. And potential K-Babe being caught out of is a very slippery character still, but delays the back timer, delays the reset. Now more space given over to Berjaya to take away some of this vision and decide what their next move is going to be to generate another pick.
Looks like Berjaya are the ones that are going to be starting up Baron already. They have full vision clear.
They're leaving.
But
yep.
That's a really good pickup from Alpha. They do spot out K2 as he head towards the pit.
They have to
and
peel
put
off.
a little bit of damage on Arashi. I think the characters are still a little bit too split on the map to really go hunting for kills right here. And it looks like Berjaya are entertaining the fight. They're walking up here. K-Babe, just with a little bit of of a scare there. Does get the supercharge from K2. Nice play. Enzo flies in now, but Rel does have the counter engage, and this is the first straight up 5v5 we're going to see coming in for Alpha Esports. They lose Shang immediately, and 3Z in the meantime takes a duel with Ozzy, which he loses to quite handedly. Ozzy still with over half HP, and now it's a 5v3 where Berjaya heading straight towards the Baron.
Yeah, we saw a decent engage coming in from Shang, but honestly it was an overinvestment. You saw Berjaya really go aggressive for that play, and all they had to do was be just a little bit more patient, wait for Berjaya to come a little bit closer. But Shang, a little bit too happy with the trigger figure, goes into a place where his team can't follow up, and now this could be game.
The triple damage collector goes down onto On. He falls immediately. Xiao2 is stuck among 4 members. Nowhere to go. K2 picks up the double, and that should be the Baron going down. On not even enough time to use his summoners right there. It was always going to be a risky proposition for Alpha Esports to check 3v5. And then unfortunately, they're not able to dissuade Berjaya or walk away with their lives.
And that's a big pick there. They're able to get those kills and also the Baron buff. And like clearly it wasn't going to be the game ender with this team fight, but the amount of gold you're getting in from this is going to be monumental, combined with the fact that this is again a composition that plays more for the 1-3-1. They're going to be able to really establish themselves now that they have this Baron buff. And given how many structures are down in the mid lane, if they ever find that one team fight and Alpha lose 3 or 4 members, they can very easily end the game through mid.
Definitely is the case now, and the damage is stacking up on Minji and K2. They're very close to being able to one-shot On in the back line, and that is the majority of their damage as we have On opening up onto Arashi, but runs into K2 and nearly dies for it. That is a little bit too close for comfort. Berjaya now gain ground on the map as On has to back away.
Trying to go for a hero play, but now they're just looking for an overextension coming in from these Berjaya members.
And so is going to go in. Looks like a bit of poke. Neither team really that eager to go onto that engage. I think we are just going to see the poke outcome again from K2 and Minji. At this point, they can actually go in and come out rather safely. There really isn't enough damage on Alpha Esports anywhere else, and the Solar Flare does go down. That is going to be the cleanse, and On has nowhere to go. Caught between a bunch of minions and 2 enemy members. He was completely alone there. Try to get the 1v1, and K2 said, "Nah, I got help on this one. I'm not gonna go for a gentleman's duel."
Very baffling play there. He goes for the Hail Mary, and clearly he had backup on the side of K2, but they're going to continue to try and fish for a pick.
Enzo's going to go back in. Nowhere for him to go right now. Can he trade something back on K2's end? K2's dancing around the perimeter, dealing damage, keeping Alpha Esports on the right side, and in the meantime, Minji and company do find a kill on the bottom end. So looks like Xiaotu is left to his own devices. Flash in from Minji, catches his out. Stormbringer to finish out the kill. Tower going down, base in tatters. Virginia Dragons closing this one down. It seems like every single time Alpha Esports try to find something, they get beaten back and beaten back hard.
And that's going to close the jaws onto Alpha. And yeah, this is just kind of formalities here. Securing the last couple of kills. And Berjaya get themselves to 5 wins. And pretty much ensuring at least a tie break for playoffs.
Get themselves a 3-game cushion over Liab Gaming and also take themselves out of reach from Alpha Esports. Hong Kong Attitude also very thankful for this game, as it's no longer possible, mathematically impossible for Alpha Esports to catch up to them. Good smiles across the board here from Virginia. I still maintain that Kinnan wasn't really that impactful at all. He never got a multi-man slicing Maelstrom.
Yep.
But I guess it didn't matter in the end because Minji and K2 were just so far ahead.
It was all about the 1v1 game rather than the 5v5. And this was also the concern for the Alpha as a squad, right? Is even though you have the better composition, do you know why it's better? Or can you actually execute the composition? And I feel like we got a very resounding no.
Yeah, there was a number of engages I felt were pretty unnecessary for Alpha Esports. If they just stacked up and moved into River, that's kind of it. But they never really did that. And the mid lane engage, you could see, especially it was just Shen going in when the rest of the team wasn't even there. So I don't know. This one was part of the course for Alpha Esports for sure, but it's definitely still a little bit sad to not see them execute the composition the way that we thought it could be played and the way that we gave them the draft advantage here. On the other end, congratulations to Virginia Dragons. They played this one fairly slow on. They were grouped up. They just kept on picking and doing side lane stuff, and yeah, Alpha Esports never forced them to do anything else.
Yeah. As you said during the PSG game, right? If you all accept the sinner life, then, well, sometimes it works out.
Yep. You know, I'll get on the sodomite train and, you know, just drive on forward. So, yeah, I don't really have a lot to say about this game. I felt like this game was like very Alpha Esports-ish. Like, it's just a level 3 dive. It happens every single game against them. We've seen it in the last game too. In the last game, they also sunk double 2 TPs in the bot lane, tried to save that. This time they didn't do it. So I'm pretty happy with that, the fact that they didn't do it. But it still is ending up just being in a very big hole early on.
It's just a really sad split from On. I can imagine that last jump onto K2 to try and get that 1v1. Probably a little bit of tilt factored in there. But we're going to see the damage numbers, and yeah, the small numbers are the most indicative of Alpha's attempt at trying to not find a team fight.
Yeah, I think what really fell apart for them is Of course, early game bot lane was just so far behind. And then when they tried to double down and dig on out of a ditch, they actually let Ozzy back into the game. Ozzy was down and out. He was 0-2-0, and then he got 3 free plays for nothing. And actually overtook the CS lead. And the second time Renekton found him, Ozzy just gave him shock therapy and killed him. And that was kind of the end of what Alpha Esports could do on the map. So it's just a little bit unfortunate. I feel like Alpha Esports, again, they try to over-aggress on the bottom lane when they were already losing, and then Minji and Ozzy just kind of walked away with the matchups. Very happy to take whatever they got. And it's kind of the Alpha Esports way, you know, you force super hard, and if it doesn't work, then, well, you force super hard again, and this time he's even less likely to work. So, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like Alpha Esports could have played this a lot better. The comp really had a lot of answers. Kennen was never a multi-man threat. We never got the Smed thing going. So, you know, at least that part of your pregame analysis didn't come true, Mr. Nightstar.
Yeah, it really was just Alpha's just a team that's been really figured out, right? They're a team that if they get their small skirmishes picks around their mid jungle duo, they can have some success, but usually it ends up fizzling out, and MVP will go to K2. He was able to get a lot of resources in that bottom lane and also take full advantage of those resources, being able to get these backline assassinations onto key targets in some of those team fights. And, well, credit goes to him for being able to take advantage of what I would say of not a very good pick in the meta right now.
We haven't seen a lot of Kaisas, even fewer succeeding in the meta, but this one definitely was very useful in the composition, the full-on sort of kite and poke composition, not kite and poke, pick composition that they like to execute with Minji's LeBlanc. So very well done on Berjaya's side. And I know what you guys in chat are saying. This has been the Liab waiting room for some of you for 5 games straight. I think that's not an overstatement. Some of you are literally here just for Liab. And that's what we're going to have up next. Machi Esports going up against Liab Gaming to see if the underdog can come out ahead and keep their playoff dreams alive.